I thought our marriage was solid until I caught my wife with her boss at a Christmas party. That betrayal was just the beginning. What I discovered next about this man's influence over my family made my blood run cold. When I started asking questions, they tried to stop me. Nobody threatens my children and gets away with it. My name is Conrad Clayton. I'm 43 years old, and I've spent the last 18 years building custom fireplaces and stone features for wealthy families across Georgia. It's honest work that requires patience, skill, and an eye for detail. The same qualities I thought I'd built my marriage on, but apparently I was wrong about that too. The whole nightmare started at Sterling Construction's annual holiday party. Roderick Sterling himself had hired me 6 months earlier to build a massive stone fireplace in his new mansion. $20,000 job, and he'd been nothing but complimentary about my craftsmanship. Even invited Natasha and me to his company's Christmas celebration as honored guests. "You sure you want to go to this thing?" I'd asked Natasha while adjusting my tie in our bedroom mirror. Our daughter Camila was having one of her difficult days, and I worried about leaving her with the babysitter. "Of course we're going," Natasha replied, smoothing down her new black dress, one I'd never seen before. Roderick specifically requested our presence. "It's important for your business reputation, Conrad." She was right about that part. Word of mouth meant everything in my line of work. The party was held at Sterling's sprawling estate, the same place where I'd spent weeks carefully laying each stone of his fireplace by hand. Ironic, considering what I was about to discover there. Everything seemed normal for the first hour. Natasha mingled with the office staff while I talked shop with other contractors. Our teenage son Henry was home watching Camila and little William, which gave us a rare night out together. Then I saw Roderick pull Natasha aside near the study doors. "Need to show you something about the Henderson project," I heard him say to her. Natasha worked as Sterling Construction's project coordinator, handling permits and documentation. Nothing unusual about work discussions, even at a party. But something about the way his hand lingered on her lower back as they walked away made my gut tighten. I gave them a few minutes, then followed. The study door was slightly open, and what I saw through that gap shattered 18 years of marriage in an instant. My wife was in Roderick Sterling's arms, kissing him like her life depended on it. Her hands tangled in his silver hair while he pressed her against the mahogany desk I'd admired earlier. In that moment, watching my wife betray me with her boss right in front of me, I understood that revenge would taste better than love ever had. My hands clenched into fists, every instinct screaming to burst through that door and tear them apart. But 3 things stopped me. My daughter Camila needed her therapy bills paid. William was only 8 years old. And I'd learned in the Army that the best battles are won with strategy, not rage. So instead of making a scene, I walked away. The drive home from Sterling's party was the longest 20 minutes of my life. Natasha hummed Christmas carols beside me. Actually hummed, like she hadn't just destroyed our family in that mahogany-paneled study. Every red light felt like torture, giving me more time to replay what I'd witnessed. "You're quiet tonight," Natasha said as we pulled into our driveway. "Everything okay, honey? Just tired," I replied, my voice steadier than I felt. Long week. Inside, our babysitter Emma was reading on the couch. "How were the kids?" I asked her. "Angels as always, Mr. Clayton," Emma said, gathering her things. "Camila had a meltdown around 8, but Henry handled it perfectly. That boy's got a gift with his sister." After Emma left, I checked on the kids. William was fast asleep, clutching his baseball glove. Camila was finally calm, her weighted blanket helping her settle after what had clearly been a rough evening. Henry was still awake in his room, playing video games with his headphones on. "How was the fancy party?" Henry asked, pulling off his headphones. "Educational," I said, ruffling his hair. "Thanks for watching your siblings. You did good tonight." Henry beamed. At 16, he was already more responsible than most adults I knew. The kid had stepped up when Camila's autism diagnosis came 3 years ago, never complaining about the extra responsibilities or the way our family dynamic had shifted to accommodate her needs. Downstairs, Natasha was already in her nightgown, removing her makeup at the bathroom mirror. "Roderick really appreciated you coming tonight," she said. "He mentioned wanting to discuss some upcoming projects with you." "I'm sure he did," I muttered. She paused, studying my reflection in the mirror. "What's that supposed to mean?" "Nothing. Just that Sterling seems very hands-on with his employees." Something flickered across her face. Guilt, maybe, or fear. but she recovered quickly. He's passionate about his business, Conrad. That's why Sterling Construction is so successful. I nodded, biting back the words I really wanted to say. Instead, I headed to my workshop in the garage. The smell of limestone dust and mortar usually calmed me, but tonight nothing could touch the rage burning in my chest. I sat on my workbench and pulled out a legal pad. If Natasha wanted to play games, I'd play them better. But first, I needed to understand what I was dealing with. The next morning, I called my buddy Frank, who worked at the county permit office. Frank, it's Conrad. I need a favor. Can you pull all the permits Sterling Construction has filed in the last 2 years? That's a lot of paperwork, man. What's this about? Just checking something for a potential client. I lied. I'll owe you lunch. Make it dinner at Murphy's, and you've got a deal. By noon, I had 3 boxes of permit applications spread across my workshop floor. What I found made my blood run cold. What I discovered in those permit files would have made a federal prosecutor weep with joy. Sterling Construction had been systematically falsifying material specifications for 3 years. High-end granite countertops listed as premium grade were actually basic builder's quality. Structural steel beams rated for commercial use were being substituted with residential-grade materials. But the real bombshell was in Camila's therapy records. I'd always wondered how we could afford Dr. Patricia Williams, the top autism specialist in Atlanta. Her sessions cost $300 each, twice a week, and our insurance only covered half. When I'd asked Natasha about it last year, she'd said Sterling Construction had excellent employee benefits. Now I knew the truth. Roderick Sterling had been personally paying for Camila's therapy for 18 months. Not through company benefits, but through a private account that showed up in the permit paperwork as community outreach expenses. The son of a gun had been buying my wife's silence with my daughter's medical care. Dad, you've been out here for hours, Henry said, appearing in the workshop doorway. Mom's asking if you want lunch. I looked up from the scattered documents, realizing I'd been reading for 3 straight hours. Tell your mother I'll be in soon. Henry stepped closer, lowering his voice. Is everything okay? You and Mom seemed weird after the party last night. Smart kid. Too smart to lie to completely. Just some work stress, son. Nothing you need to worry about. But Henry wasn't buying it. Does it have something to do with Mr. Sterling? You got all tense when Mom mentioned him at breakfast. I studied my eldest son's face. At 16, he was already showing the kind of integrity I'd hoped to instill in him. Maybe it was time to start preparing him for what was coming. Henry, what do you know about doing the right thing, even when it costs you everything? He thought for a moment. Grandpa always said a man's word is his bond, that you can lose everything else, but if you keep your integrity, you can rebuild. My father had been a stonemason too, and a better man than I'd given him credit for at Henry's age. That's right. And sometimes keeping your integrity means making choices that hurt people you love. Are you and Mom getting divorced? Henry asked quietly. The question hit me like a sledgehammer to the chest. I don't know yet, son, but I promise you this. Whatever happens, I'll always be your father. You, Camila, and William will always come first. That afternoon, while Natasha took the younger kids Christmas shopping, I made 2 phone calls that would change everything. The first was to Dr. Williams' office. I need to discuss my daughter's payment arrangements, I told her receptionist. The second call was to Jimmy Torres, a private investigator I'd met on a job site 6 months ago. Jimmy, it's Conrad Clayton. I need to hire you for something personal. What kind of personal? Jimmy asked. The kind that ends marriages. Dr. Williams' office felt different when you knew the truth about who was paying the bills. I sat across from her mahogany desk, the same richwood that had witnessed my wife's betrayal just days earlier. Mr. Clayton, I'm confused about your concerns regarding Camila's payment arrangements, Dr. Williams said, adjusting her glasses. The account has always been current. That's exactly what concerns me, doctor. Who's been making those payments? She hesitated, clearly uncomfortable. I assumed you knew. Mr. Sterling from your wife's company set up a direct payment system. He said it was part of their employee assistance program. Did my wife know about this arrangement? She's the one who arranged it initially. She said your family was struggling with the costs, and Mr. Sterling wanted to help as part of his community involvement. My hands clenched into fists under the desk. Natasha hadn't just been sleeping with Roderick. She'd been letting him manipulate our family through our daughter's medical needs. Doctor, I need you to transfer all future billing directly to me. No more third-party payments. Of course, but Mr. Clayton, are you sure? The treatments are quite expensive, and Camila is making such good progress. I'll handle it, I said firmly. My daughter's care is my responsibility, not anyone else's. That evening, Jimmy Torres met me at Murphy's bar on the outskirts of town. He was a compact man with intelligent eyes and the kind of quiet confidence that came from years of uncovering other people's secrets. So what's the situation? Jimmy asked after we'd ordered. I told him everything. The Christmas party, the permit fraud, the therapy payments, all of it. Jimmy listened without judgment, occasionally taking notes on a small pad. How long do you think this affair has been going on? He asked. Based on the therapy payments, at least 18 months. Maybe longer. Jimmy nodded. And you want documentation? Everything. Photos, financial records, communication logs. When this goes to court, I want it airtight. Court cases are expensive, Conrad. Especially custody battles involving special needs kids. I've got money saved, I lied. The truth was, I'd have to mortgage everything I own to pay for both the investigation and Camila's continued therapy. There's something else, Jimmy said, leaning forward. If Sterling Construction is involved in permit fraud like you suspect, this could get dangerous. These aren't just marital problems we're talking about. I thought about my kids, about Henry's trust in doing the right thing, about Camila's innocent need for stability. Then we better make sure we do this right the first time. All right, Jimmy said, extending his hand. But I want to be clear about something. Once we start pulling this thread, there's no telling what's going to unravel. I shook his hand, feeling the calluses from years of honest work meet his. Good. It's time someone pulled that thread. Jimmy Torres delivered his first report on a Tuesday morning, sliding a manila envelope across the table at our usual diner. The photographs inside made my stomach turn, but they also steeled my resolve. This has been going on for 2 years, not 18 months, Jimmy said quietly. I found hotel receipts going back that far. Always the same place, the Riverside Inn on Highway 85. I flipped through the pictures. Roderick's BMW parked next to Natasha's Honda. The two of them entering room 237 together. Intimate moments on the hotel balcony that made me want to put my fist through something. There's more, Jimmy continued. Sterling's been paying for more than just your daughter's therapy. Check the bank records on page 12. The financial documents showed a pattern of payments that made my blood boil. Natasha's gym membership, her new wardrobe, even the payments on her Honda Accord. Roderick Sterling had essentially been keeping my wife as his mistress while I worked 60-hour weeks to support our family. The construction fraud goes deeper than we thought, Jimmy said. I've got contacts in 3 different trades who work Sterling projects. They all tell the same story. Pressure to use substandard materials while billing for premium quality. How many families are living in houses that aren't safe? I asked. Hard to say, but there's been 2 foundation failures in Sterling developments in the past year. Both got settled out of court with non-disclosure agreements. I thought about Camila, about how Roderick had used her medical needs to manipulate our family. How many other families was he putting at risk for profit? There's something else, Jimmy said, his voice dropping. Sterling's got connections to some serious people. The kind who don't like their business partnerships examined too closely. What kind of connections? Money laundering through his construction projects. I'm still gathering evidence, but there are cash payments that don't show up in the books. Large ones. That evening, I sat Henry down in my workshop. At 16, he deserved to know what was coming. Son, your mother and I are going to get divorced, I said without preamble. Henry's face went pale, but he didn't look surprised. Because of Mr. Sterling? You knew. I saw them together at the school fundraiser last month. The way he looked at her, touched her arm, it wasn't professional. Henry's jaw tightened. I wanted to tell you, but I didn't know how. I pulled my son into a hug, proud of his maturity, even as my heart broke for what this would do to him. You did nothing wrong, Henry. This is between your mother and me. What about Camila and William? They're going to be so confused. We'll figure out together. But I need you to know that no matter what happens, you kids are my priority. Always. Are we going to lose the house? I thought about the mounting legal bills, the cost of Camila's therapy, the uncertain future ahead. Maybe, but we'll land on our feet. The Clayton men always do. That night, Natasha came home at nearly midnight, claiming another emergency with the Patterson Heights project. I watched her perform her routine of guilt and lies, knowing it would be one of the last times. Roderick is so grateful for your patience with my work schedule, she said, hanging up her coat. I'm sure he is. The moment of truth came on a Saturday morning in February. I planned it carefully, waiting until the kids were at their various activities. Henry was at basketball practice, William at a friend's house, and Camila was having her therapy session with Dr. Williams, paid for by me now, not Roderick Sterling. Natasha was in the kitchen making coffee when I placed the manila envelope on the counter beside her. What's this? She asked, not looking up from the coffee maker. Open it. The color drained from her face as she saw the first photograph. Her hands trembled as she flipped through the evidence of her 2-year affair. Conrad, I can explain, she started. Can you? I kept my voice level controlled. Can you explain how you've been prostituting yourself for gym memberships and car payments? Can you explain how you let Roderick Sterling use our daughter's medical needs to buy your silence about his criminal activities? It's not like that, she whispered. Then tell me what it's like, Natasha. Tell me how my wife of 18 years decided that Roderick Sterling was worth destroying our family. She sank into a chair, the photographs scattered on the table between us. You don't understand the pressure I was under. The therapy bills, the mortgage, trying to keep up with everyone else. So, you decided to let another man pay your bills in exchange for what exactly? It started innocently, she said, tears flowing now. Roderick noticed I was stressed about Camila's costs. He offered to help as a friend, as my employer. And when did friendship turn into hotel rooms, Natasha? She flinched. He made me feel appreciated, valued, like I was more than just a mother and a wife drowning in responsibilities. Did you think about what you were risking? Our marriage, our children, our home. Every day she sobbed, but I couldn't stop. He said he loved me, that he wanted to leave his wife and start over with me. I laughed bitterly. And you believed him? A man who cheats on his wife with his employee, who steals from his clients, who uses a little girl's medical needs as leverage. He's not like that, Natasha said desperately. You don't know him like I do. I know exactly what he is, I said, pulling out the construction fraud evidence. He's a criminal, Natasha, and you've been helping him. Her eyes widened as she saw the permit documentation, the material substitution records, the pattern of fraud that stretched back years. I had nothing to do with this, she said. You processed the permits. You filed the documentation. Your signature is on half of these forms. I was just doing my job. Roderick told me what paperwork to file. And it never occurred to you to question why premium materials were being billed while substandard ones were being used. Natasha stared at the evidence, finally understanding the scope of what she'd become involved in. Conrad, what are you going to do? I'm going to do what I should have done years ago, I said. I'm going to be the man my children deserve as a father. Please don't turn me in. Think about the kids, about what this will do to them. I'm thinking about them. That's why I'm going to make sure they never have to wonder if their father was a coward who let criminals destroy other families to protect his own. The retaliation came faster than I expected. 3 days after my confrontation with Natasha, I arrived at my current job site to find every piece of my equipment vandalized. Power tools smashed, stone slabs broken, my work truck's tires slashed. But it wasn't just property damage. Spray painted across the side of my truck in red letters was a message. Mind your own business. Whoever did this had professional help, said Officer Janet Riley, the police detective who responded to my call. This kind of systematic destruction takes time and planning. Any idea whom I want to send you a message? She asked. I thought about telling her everything, but Jimmy Torres had warned me to keep quiet until we had enough evidence to ensure charges would stick. I've been working on some sensitive projects lately. Maybe I stepped on some toes. That evening, Henry found me in what was left of my workshop, trying to salvage tools that had taken me 15 years to collect. Dad, this was because of Mr. Sterling, wasn't it? Henry asked, picking up the remains of my grandfather's hand-carved chisels. What makes you say that? Because William heard Mom on the phone earlier. She was crying, telling someone that Conrad knows everything, and asking what she should do. I stopped working and looked at my son. How much did William hear? Enough to ask me why Mommy was scared of Daddy. I told him adults sometimes have complicated problems, but I don't think he believed me. That night, I called Jimmy Torres. They hit my workshop, destroyed everything. I was afraid this might happen, Jimmy said. Sterling's got connections to people who handle problems with violence. You need to be careful, Conrad. How careful. Pack a bag and take your kids somewhere safe for a few days. Let me reach out to my federal contacts. But before I could act on Jimmy's advice, Henry burst into my room at 2 in the morning. Dad, wake up. Someone's outside. I grabbed the baseball bat I'd started keeping beside my bed and followed Henry to the window. In the moonlight, I could see 2 figures by my truck doing something to the engine. Call 911. I told Henry, then slipped out the back door. I managed to get close enough to see one man's face clearly before they spotted me. The confrontation was brief, but intense. They ran when they realized I wasn't backing down, but not before one of them pulled a knife. You're making a big mistake, Clayton, the one with the knife called out as they fled. Sterling's got friends you don't want to meet. The police found sugar in my gas tank and cut brake lines. If I'd driven to work the next morning without checking, I might not have made it home. This has escalated beyond property damage. Officer Riley told me. Someone wants to hurt you or your family. Do you have somewhere safe to stay? I looked at Henry, who was trying to act brave despite the fear in his eyes. My children shouldn't have to live in terror because their father chose to do the right thing. Yeah, I said. I know exactly where we're going. My brother Michael's farm outside Augusta became our refuge. He didn't ask questions when I showed up with 3 kids and a truck full of salvage tools. Just pointed us toward the guest house and told the kids they could help with the horses. How long do you need to stay? Michael asked the next morning as we watched William chase chickens around the yard. Until it's safe to go home, or until we don't have a home to go back to. Michael studied my face. This is about more than a divorce, isn't it? I told him everything. The affair, the construction fraud, the threats, all of it. Michael listened without judgment, occasionally nodding as pieces fell into place. You always were too stubborn for your own good, he said finally. But you're doing the right thing. It doesn't feel right when my kids are paying the price. Your kids are learning that their father is a man of integrity. That's worth more than any house. That afternoon, Jimmy Torres called with news that changed everything. The federal investigation is moving faster than anyone expected, he said. They want to meet with you tomorrow. Bring everything you have. What about my family's safety? That's actually why they want to meet. Sterling's escalation has caught their attention. They're prepared to offer protection in exchange for your cooperation. The meeting took place in a sterile conference room in the federal building in Atlanta. Special Agent Sarah Mitchell was younger than I expected, but her reputation preceded her. She built her career prosecuting white-collar criminals. Mr. Clayton, we understand you've been threatened, Agent Mitchell began. We also understand you have evidence of fraudulent construction practices. I handed over everything Jimmy and I had collected. Permit documents, financial records, photographs, witness statements. The agents studied the materials with professional interest. This is substantial, Agent Mitchell said. But we need more than documents. We need someone on the inside. What are you asking? Your wife is in a unique position. She could gather additional evidence, record conversations, help us build an airtight case. And if she refuses, then she faces federal charges as an accessory to fraud and money laundering. The evidence suggests she knew about the material substitutions. That evening, I drove back to the house to retrieve more clothes for the kids. Natasha was waiting in the kitchen, her eyes red from crying. The FBI came to my office today, she said without preamble. I know. They want me to wear a wire, Conrad, to record conversations with Roderick. Are you going to do it? I don't have a choice, do I? If I don't cooperate, I could go to prison. Our children could lose both parents. For the first time since this nightmare began, I felt a flicker of sympathy for my wife. Natasha, I need you to understand something. This isn't about punishing you. It's about stopping Roderick before he hurts more families. I know, she whispered. I just wish I'd been strong enough to stop it myself. You could be strong now. For Camila, for Henry and William. Help the FBI end this. She nodded, tears streaming down her face. I'm so sorry, Conrad. For all of it. I know you are. But sorry doesn't fix what's broken. Is there any chance we could work through this? Go to counseling, start over. I looked at the woman I'd loved for 18 years, seeing clearly for the first time who she really was. No, Natasha, there isn't. The arrests happened at dawn. I watched from my truck as federal agents led Roderick Sterling out of his mansion in handcuffs, the same house where I'd built his fireplace with my own hands. The irony wasn't lost on me that the stones I'd carefully laid would outlast the criminal empire he'd built on lies. Natasha's testimony proved devastating. 3 months of recorded conversations had captured Roderick admitting to fraud, money laundering, and bribing city officials. When the trial began 8 months later, the evidence was overwhelming. The defendant systematically defrauded dozens of families, the prosecutor told the jury during closing arguments. He put children at risk by using substandard materials in schools and hospitals. He corrupted public officials and threatened anyone who tried to stop him. Roderick Sterling was sentenced to 18 years in federal prison. His construction empire collapsed overnight, leaving hundreds of families to deal with unsafe homes and abandoned projects. But justice came with a price. The divorce proceedings were brutal, complicated by Natasha's cooperation with federal investigators. In the end, I got primary custody of all 3 children, while Natasha received supervised visitation until she completed court-mandated counseling. "I'm sorry it ended this way," Natasha said after the final hearing. "I know I don't deserve forgiveness, but I hope someday the children will understand I was trying to do the right thing in the end. They'll understand," I told her. "It might take time, but they'll understand." 6 months after Roderick's sentencing, I stood in the workshop of my new business, Clayton Stoneworks. Henry, now 17, worked beside me on weekends, learning the craft that had sustained our family through its darkest period. Camila was thriving in a new school with excellent special education support, her therapy funded by my growing business rather than criminal money. William had adjusted better than any of us expected, his resilience a constant source of pride. "Dad, do you ever regret exposing Mr. Sterling?" Henry asked, as we worked on a custom fireplace for a client. I thought about the families living in Sterling's defective houses, about the children who might have been hurt if his criminal enterprise had continued. "No, son. Sometimes doing the right thing costs everything, but it's still the right thing." As I watched my son carefully place each stone with the precision I taught him, I realized that revenge truly had tasted better than love. Not because I destroyed Roderick Sterling, but because I'd chosen to rebuild my family on a foundation of truth and integrity. The best revenge, it turned out, was simply living an honest life. 2 years after Roderick Sterling's conviction, Clayton Stoneworks had become one of the most respected custom masonry companies in Georgia. My reputation for quality and integrity attracted clients who valued craftsmanship over shortcuts, honesty over convenience. "Mr. Clayton, this fireplace is exactly what we envisioned," said Margaret Harrison, admiring the custom stonework I'd just completed in her restored Victorian home. "Your attention to detail is remarkable." "Thank you, ma'am. Every stone tells a story. I just help them find their place." The business success allowed me to provide for my children without compromise. Camila's therapy continued without interruption, and she'd made remarkable progress in her new school. William had joined the baseball team and was thriving academically. Henry had been accepted to Georgia Tech's engineering program, with plans to return and modernize our family business. "Dad, I've been thinking about expanding into sustainable building materials," Henry said over dinner that evening. "Green construction is the future." "Sounds like you got vision, son." "That's good. A business needs someone who can see beyond today." Natasha had completed her counseling and slowly rebuilt her relationship with the children. The supervised visits had ended 6 months ago, and she now had the kids every other weekend. She found work with a small accounting firm, starting over at entry level, but she seemed genuinely committed to earning back their trust. "She's different now," Camila observed during one of our evening talks. At 14, my daughter's autism hadn't prevented her from developing remarkable emotional intelligence. "Mommy seems sadder, but more real." "People can change, sweetheart. It takes time and work, but they can change." "Do you still love her?" I consider the question carefully. I love who she used to be, and I hope she becomes someone even better. But sometimes love isn't enough to fix what's broken. On a crisp October morning, I received an unexpected visitor at the workshop. Special Agent Sarah Mitchell knocked on my door, no longer investigating crimes, but following up on their aftermath. "Mr. Clayton, I wanted to thank you personally," she said. "Your decision to come forward prevented Sterling from completing several more fraudulent projects. We estimate you saved taxpayers over $50 million. I just did what anyone should have done." "No, you did what few people have the courage to do. You risked everything for strangers you'd never meet." After Agent Mitchell left, I walked through my workshop, touching tools I'd rebuilt and replaced after Sterling's thugs destroyed everything. Each implement represented not just my livelihood, but my choice to rebuild rather than retreat. Henry found me there that evening, working late on plans for a memorial garden at the local children's hospital. "You know what I learned from all this?" he said, settling onto his usual stool. "What's that?" "That being a man isn't about being the strongest or the loudest. It's about doing what's right even when it costs you everything." I smiled, proud beyond words of the young man my son had become. "Your grandfather would have been proud to hear you say that. He would have been proud of you, Dad, for fighting back, for protecting us." As I locked up the workshop that night, I reflected on the journey that had brought us here. Natasha's betrayal had nearly destroyed our family, but had also revealed strength I didn't know I possessed. The pain of discovering my wife's affair with her boss had given way to something far more valuable. The knowledge that revenge truly did taste better than love, when that revenge was simply living a life of integrity and watching my children grow into honorable adults. Sometimes the best victory is not defeating your enemies, but becoming someone they could never touch.